Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is Danielle and I'm a professional voice actor and entrepreneur. I'm also a person who really loves talking about money and personal finance. In this channel, I want to share my experience and my knowledge and also some things that I wish I would have known when I was in the beginning of building my wealth and building my career. Did you know a 2024 Empower study showed that about 34% of Americans could not afford a more than $400 emergency, and a little bit over 20% didn't even have an emergency savings at all? Now, this can be really scary because if you don't have an emergency fund or some savings, you run the risk of just one incident causing financial ruin or having you be off track. This happened to me because in 2018, I got sick on a flight from Texas to New York. Now, at the time, I was young, relatively healthy, and as an actor in New York City, I had the typical life and lifestyle. I was waiting tables at night and I was working at a retail store during the daytime. And around that, I was taking my acting classes and taking dance classes and as much as I could do to be an actor in New York City. So, needless to say, getting sick on the plane was not something that I could afford in terms of money or time. I ended up getting so sick that I had to go to the hospital. And I remember laying in the hospital bed thinking, I don't know how much this is going to cost, but I know I don't have the money for it. Luckily, through my retail day job, I did have health insurance, which was a huge saver, but I still knew that I was going to have some hospital bill that was going to come my way, and I did not have the money to absorb that cost. And it dawned on me that even though I was young and I was healthy, I did not have the financial infrastructure in place to be able to absorb any sort of emergency at all. At the time, I knew I could outwork my bills, and that was really what I was doing. I was just, if I had a bill, I would just pick up another shift and I could outwork it. But what if I couldn't work? What if the only way that I was able to outwork my bills was to be healthy enough to do it? And since I was lying in this hospital bed and had no way of knowing how long I would be there, why I got sick, anything like that, I couldn't even afford to take time off from work. That experience caused me to make some major changes in my financial life that took me from going to zero to over $10,000 in an emergency fund in just about 2 years. So here are 3 steps that I took to make changes in my financial life. The first thing I needed to do was change my money psychology. I was a person who was really, really nervous to check my bank accounts because every time I logged into my bank account and saw the number that was there in my checking or savings, it made me feel bad. No matter how big or small the number was, I just always felt bad about looking at my bank account. So I made it a habit to open up my bank account every single day, look at the amount that was in there, and show and develop a little bit of gratitude. Now, I know this seems a little bit woo-woo, but really it actually helps because when you can develop a level of appreciation for what you have, it will grow. And also, I needed to train my mind to realize that money is not bad. These numbers were simply numbers, and this money was a tool that I was using to live my life on a day-to-day basis. I was using that money to go to the grocery store or pay for acting classes or voice lessons. The money itself wasn't good or bad, but my mentality about money was so poor that I couldn't even look at the money in my account and feel good about it or feel good about myself. And that needed to change. The next major thing that I did was I automated my expenses and I automated my savings. Now, this came from a book called I Will Teach You to Be Rich by Ramit Sethi. He also has a podcast and a YouTube channel, and I totally encourage you to check it out. He talks a lot about money psychology, and it's really fascinating. Typically, I was very nervous to automate anything with my finances. I was paying every single bill manually, and typically I was paying it late. So I was also paying late fees. And automating my finances, even like the smallest bill, one, it took a level of weight off of me, mental load off of me, and I knew that the bill was going to get paid on time. And sometimes subconsciously, I was too afraid to relinquish the money because I felt like, what if I need it? And I think that's usually pretty normal. But when I automated my payments and when I automated my savings, it actually happened because the friction point me was no longer in the equation. So I realized I was the problem. And if I took myself out of the payment process, paying my bills and putting money in savings, it actually happened, and it happened on time. So start small if you can. Can you start with maybe your cell phone bill or your internet bill? Put that on auto pay and make sure you pay it a couple of days before it's due so you know it actually goes through on time. And the big thing that I did was I made sure to save every single week into a high yield savings account. That's really important because the interest on in the high yield savings account was more than I was getting with my regular checking and savings. So the interest also helped me accumulate and make my money grow faster. But what I would do is I would put $100 per week to the side and put that in my high yield savings account, which was in a completely different account than my normal checking and savings. Having that separation really helped because I couldn't see it. I wasn't seeing it on a daily basis. So I was working with a smaller amount of money day to day, but the money that I was putting aside in my high yield savings account was growing because of the interest. The third thing I did was I made a plan for my money. I made a plan to save $100 every single week. Now, $100 was specific enough for me because I knew that I could either pick up another shift to be able to cover that money, or I was able to put $100 to the side based on what I was making, especially from my waiting tables job. So when you are putting money to the side, figure out what you can feasibly and reasonably do and make sure to automate that process. For me, it was $100 per week. And over the course of 2 years, from 2018 to March of 2020, that money grew in a high yield savings account from just about $1,000 to a little over $10,000. Now, March of 2020 is a really specific time because the pandemic happened at that point. And it was interesting for me to go into the global pandemic having $10,000 in an emergency fund when just 2 years prior, I didn't have any money and I was in the hospital. So that's the power of compounding, and that's the power of automating your savings and your finances. So if you're trying to increase your savings or you have a savings goal, look at your financial psychology. What do you believe about money, and how can you cultivate gratitude for the money that you have now? Try to automate. I highly recommend automating your savings and automating your debt payoff if you have debt, because that's the way that you know it's going to happen without the friction point of you being the problem and maybe letting your emotions get in the way. And finally, create a plan for your money. So what about you? Do you have some financial goals? Have you been able to save a lot of money? Tell us in the comments. I want us to be able to have a really great conversation and share tips and tricks on how we can better our finances and grow in our wealth journey. Thank you so much for watching. If you like what you see here, please subscribe to the channel so you can be alerted whenever I upload a new video. Thanks. Bye.